Carroll and Russell Wilson?
Well, Dan, they're united in a common purpose, and at least they, unlike other teams with other quarterbacks, can put it behind them for right now and move forward for this year and have it exist well enough for the two sides to go on together. Again, I think right now, the situation, the relationship is fine going forward. They got each other. They know what they expect. Russell Wilson is fine in Seattle, happy to be in Seattle. Do I think that we've heard the last of this over time? No, but I think we've heard the last of this for this season.
Marcus Spears, what do you think?
Man, listen, man, I could care less, to be honest with you, DG. I could care less. And Russell Wilson, to me, is a politician. He going to say what needs to be said. He going to say the right things. He's been doing that his entire career. Everything is kumbaya with Pete Carroll after putting the list of teams out there that you would entertain in a trade. It's fine. People talk. You get over it. Relationships get better sometimes through conversation. I'm not denying the fact that him and Pete Carroll may be on the same page. Russell Wilson is making a boatload of money. All right. He's surrounded by really good players in Seattle. I really didn't understand what the damn gripe was anyway from the beginning because it was so vague in him talking about it in the conversation. The protection, they addressed the offensive line. But Russell is a politician, boss, and that's what he gonna do when he on radio, on television. He ain't gonna tell you what he really feeling. He gonna say what he think he needs to say at that time to appease whoever he trying to appease. This is another situation of that. All right, you was unhappy 3 months ago. You happy now. You with Pete Carroll. You gonna say the right things in public. I'm gonna leave it at that because really it's a non-story to me from the beginning, but especially now.
See, Swagoo, I don't think it's not even about being happy, unhappy. I just think for Russell, it's just about what about me? Y'all talking about everybody else. This is an opportunity for my name to get out there. I'm getting ready to launch this amazing kids line with my wife, Sierra, through Nike, through Nordstrom's in the Pacific Northwest. So I got all opportunity now to put my name out there. Look, did he talk to his agent and give him a list of 4 teams that if, in fact, they don't want to deal with me, I'll go to if they trade me? Of course he did. Players do that all the time. They tell people, man, if I can go play for this team or that team, I'll do it if they don't want me. Doesn't mean he really wanted to be traded. He's just talking. And the one thing that I would say is he didn't step up and say, well, I want to be in Seattle. He continued to let it brew. The more it continued to go, the more we talked about it. In the end, he's got too much equity built up in the Pacific Northwest with him and his family to all of a sudden be mad at Seattle. They signed off on the offensive coordinator. He was in the room. He signed it. They went and retooled the offensive line. Every time they want a receiver, he wants another receiver, they go out and draft one or sign one. Russell's good, man. It's all about nothing as far as I'm concerned.
And Key, that's the thing for me, man. Like that's why I say it's politicking, man. It's politicking. I took it with a grain of salt. I remember me and Schefter being on here, and obviously Schefter is the guy that gets the information. But I told Schefter, I said, man, how I feel about this particular one is it's nothing. Russ didn't say anything, right? The teams came out and all of that with his agent. But the bottom line is Russell Wilson, from the beginning of time since he's been doing interviews, has said the things that needed to be said and maybe against what he really wanted to say. And that's what we're going to continue to get from him. So I'm going to leave it at that.
Other thing about Russell Wilson, he's done
alone, Swagoo.
on the field. He's done the things he's needed to do.
Bro, seriously.
9 years as the Seattle starting quarterback. He and Pete Carroll have made the playoffs together 8 times. Coming up, not everyone is built for the Patriot way, but Cam Newton embraces the mentality of his head coach, Bill Belichick.
I mean, it's pretty much cut and dry, straightforward. You know, Dollar Bill is a person who, he's a straight shooter. His expectations are what they are.
He looked after his...
One of them actually did. All eyes were on 7 players today. There's the deadline. All eyes were on 7 players today as they hope to get long-term deals in place before that surprising buzzer went off at 4 p.m. Eastern. 6 of these 7 players did not put ink to paper, meaning they will now have to play the 2021 season on the franchise tag. We'll get to them in a moment. But Adam Schefter, you broke the news of the one that did. Can you tell us who it was?
Yes, that's correct. Taylor Moton, the Panthers offensive tackle, agreed to a 4-year, $72 million contract that included $43 million at signing. And so he becomes, we believe, the only franchise tag player to get a deal done before today's deadline. Now, keep in mind, some other franchise deals did get done earlier this offseason. The Giants gave Leonard Williams a big extension. The Broncos gave Justin Simmons a big extension. But on the last day that franchise players can sign long-term extensions this season, Taylor Moton appears to be the only one that got a deal done. Matt Rule is a big Taylor Moton fan, and it was evident in the type of deal that they gave him today, a big deal for a young offensive tackle.
Second-round pick by the Panthers in 2017, and obviously a player about whom they feel very, very good. Let's get the rest of our crew in here. Marcus Spears and Keyshawn Johnson joining today's show. The Panthers have now locked up their entire offensive line for the next 2 seasons to help protect new quarterback Sam Darnold. So, Marcus, do you expect Darnold to take a big step forward now that he's in Carolina?
I do, DG. I do. I expect him to take a huge step, one, because he's about to be in a competent situation. And I think we can all look back at his time in New York and say it was a lot of things that were going wrong with the Jets organization. Secondly, Matt Rule is that guy that gets the most out of his players. I don't think he gets enough credit. He's one of my favorite coaches that I've never even played for or met in person. But when you hear players talk about him and you see what type of team he puts out on the field and championship and building programs while he was in college, you would think that Sam Darnold would be able to thrive in that type of culture. And then the vote of confidence to pick up Sam Darnold's 5th-year option, and now you re-sign Taylor Moton. You're getting back a healthy Christian McCaffrey. The chips have failed where they should for Sam Darnold and the Carolina Panthers. He has a really good coaching staff. He has weapons around him. They've assured his protection, which is one thing he fought through with the New York Jets as well. Sam Darnold should feel great about returning to camp. And congratulations to Taylor Moton on getting his money, man. Y'all know my words. Get your money, man, at all costs.
Obviously good for Taylor Moton, maybe not so good for the 6 other franchise tag players that didn't get deals before the deadline. Adam, take us through those guys, starting with wide receiver Allen Robinson in Chicago.
Well, Dan, as you know, he's coming off a second franchise tag, which makes it that much more difficult to get a long-term deal done. And Allen Robinson knows that he's going to be paid big money this year to play on that second franchise tag, about $18 million. And then if he hits the open market, the Bears wouldn't tag him again, so he can become an unrestricted free agent and really cash in at that point in time. The Buccaneers have Chris Godwin under a franchise tag, but not a long-term deal. And the Buccaneers have spent so much money this offseason on so many different players. You don't see defending Super Bowl champs keep their roster that intact the way Tampa Bay did this offseason. And so it's tough to get a deal done for a great young player like Chris Godwin. As much as the Buccaneers wanted to, this is something that they'll turn their attention to, but can't turn their attention to until after the season. And there are the other players. We mentioned Robinson playing under 2 tags. Same is true of Brandon Scherf in Washington. So he has a huge salary this year as well. Cam Robinson, no deal. Marcus May, no deal. And Marcus Williams, as of about an hour ago, didn't sound like they were close either. So again, sometimes, Dan, deals flicker in at the last moment. The teams agreed and got the paperwork to the league. We've seen that happen, and until about 4:30, we don't know that that's official, but the indications are right now Taylor Moton is going to be the only player under the franchise tag to beat today's 4 p.m. Eastern deadline and get a long-term extension done.
Good reminder there, and obviously if any of those other deals do trickle in, we will keep you posted here on NFL Live throughout the next hour. Another guy playing on a 1-year deal is Cam Newton, quarterback the Patriots brought back after an up-and-down 2020 season. A few weeks after they did that, they drafted Alabama's Mac Jones with the 15th overall pick. So far, the Patriots say Cam is the starter. Cam was on Keyshawn's radio show this morning, and here is some of what he had to say.
Let's be honest. I've been playing this game long enough to know, that's the right pick. Mac and Cheese is a person doing the initiatives of learning his teammates, understanding that, I got to raise my level of play, from the collegiate level to the professional level, and I'm here for him, and as well as he is here for me. So when Mac was picked, there was no type of ill will feelings, and there's still no ill will feelings because competition breeds out the best in everybody, and it's really put up or shut up time.
Key, what were your thoughts on what Cam had to say to you on the radio this morning?
Well, look, he's a veteran player who's been in this league, who's seen a lot of guys come and go. He's right. They were going to select the quarterback, especially coming off the year that the New England Patriots had as a team as a whole, not just Cam Newton. Cam Newton, we also talked about the COVID incident and how poor he played down the stretch for the New England Patriots. But clearly they saw something enough in him to bring him back, sign a bunch of players in free agency. And one thing that I took away from that conversation with Cam is, hey, this is my football team. I get it. They selected somebody. And if I go out there and I play poor, then yeah, I'm going to be benched. He knows that. He doesn't need us pundits on television to tell him that he had a bad season. We know he had a bad season, but I can almost guarantee you, based on who he is, determination to always be great, his work ethic, how hard he works, he'll be the opening day starting quarterback. And from there, he has to hold off Mac Jones, Jared Stidham, Brian Hoyer, and anybody else that's looking to replace him. If they go 0-2, 1-3, then you'll see another quarterback, rightfully so.
Listen, man, first of all, great interview, Key. But it's perspective. Like, Cam Newton is not confused about where he is at this point in his career. He's a bridge guy right now auditioning to be a long-term starter for another team. The New England Patriots drafted Mac Jones to be their future, their starter going forward. And he's set up in the perfect way. That's why before the draft, I was like, this will be an ideal destination for Mac Jones. That's not to cast any aspersions on Cam Newton. Both things can be true. Cam Newton can be in a one-year situation with the New England Patriots where he's auditioning for teams that need a legit starter. And if it performs at a high level, you go with Cam Newton. The New England Patriots already have their succession plan in place. But I tell you this, they start with two division opponents. They go 0-2 in those games. I expect to see Mac Jones the following week. And the Patriots are going to rip the Band-Aid off and get their future started real fast. I do expect Cam to play well. I expect him to have a much better season than he had last year. But the real point is Cam Newton understands and has been in this league long enough to know what the writing on the wall is for him in New England.
And Marcus, it's a great point because you look around that room in New England, Mac Jones, Jared Stidham, Brian Hoyer. So there are a surplus of quarterbacks. So Cam Newton needs to play well because he is auditioning for somebody at this point in time. Short of him having a Cam Newton type of MVP season like he once did for Carolina, the chances are he's going to be playing for somebody else, somewhere else, next season. But he's got a chance to win that job. I don't know that it's going to be as easy as he says. Because, again, let's keep in mind, Mac Jones is somebody that's ready to play, somebody that played an awful lot and has taken some snaps, and somebody who's ready to, I think, make an impact in the game. The 49ers traded up to number 3 with the idea that they were comfortable enough taking Mac Jones at 3. Well, Mac Jones slid to New England's spot, and now they have the chance to mold him. If he impresses them during the preseason, there's no reason to hold back going to him. But Cam Newton needs to play the way he did in Carolina at one point.
So we'll see how that plays out in Patriots training camp. Marcus mentions those two division games. Patriots open the season against the Dolphins and then the Jets. The Richard Sherman story that broke yesterday morning continues to develop today. The veteran cornerback will have a hearing later this afternoon to determine charges after an incident with his wife and her family members Wednesday. Reports say Sherman crashed his vehicle in a construction zone, tried to break into his in-laws' home, and then fought with officers. So, Adam, as this story continues to develop, what more can you tell us?
Well, Dan, we are awaiting Richard Sherman to appear before the judge in the King County a short time from now. He's been held in the King County Correctional Facility since they brought him in early Wednesday morning. The judge will hand down the charges against Richard Sherman. There are a litany of charges he can hand down against him because of all the things that unfolded in the early morning hours in Seattle and in Redmond on Wednesday. Obviously, there's a whole host of issues here, but there are no issues that are any more disturbing than the call that came in from his wife to 911 where basically she talked about Richard Sherman doing harm to himself, to others, whatever it may be. That was disturbing to hear everything that she had to say. You hope that Richard Sherman is okay. You hope that he gets the help that he needs right now, and you hope that this situation works out as best as it can, because it's terribly troubling.
Well said. We will, of course, keep you posted as this story continues to develop. We are just getting started on today's edition of NFL Live. Keyshawn Johnson will reveal his top 5 NFL wide receivers when we come back. Tyreek Hill, he wasn't even considered for the list.
We were playing the Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City. And I'm not sure if people watching at home, I'm not sure if you remember the easy button from the Staples commercial.
Yeah,
and when you
easy.
press it, it said that was easy. I think everyone in corporate America had one at their desk.
Right.
So I put one under the north and south end zone, and I was hoping to score that game and pull the easy button out and run to Carson and have him hit that button. And it's very unfortunate that I didn't get a chance to score that game.
That was the always entertaining Chad Johnson on the show earlier this week. And apparently the Chiefs watch NFL Live because Mecole Hardman Jr. tweeted at his quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, "What do you think?" And Mahomes responded, "As long as you got the fine," which is funny because Mahomes makes 35 times as much as Mecole Hardman does. What do you guys figure? What do you guys think about the possibility of the Chad Johnson easy button celebration?
I mean, I guess it's cool. Chad,
like it,
Chad
man.
always has some cool celebrations, so I like it. I mean, it's cool. It's cute.
Cute. We used to have one of those here. I think there's one around here somewhere, the easy button. We'll have to dig that up and use it at just the right time. But right now, we're going to talk about a story on ESPN Plus about the top wideouts in the NFL. Surveyed more than 50 league personnel to help rank those top 10 wide receivers in the NFL. Devontae Adams came in first, followed by DeAndre Hopkins and Stephon Diggs. Key, you've had a chance to peruse this list, and I knowing you the way I do, I feel like you probably felt like making your own. So take us through what would be your top 5 wide receivers in the NFL.
Well, they asked me actually, Dan, to make my own, so I agreed to make my own.
I just work here.
I gave 5. I didn't give 10 or 20. I just gave a simple 5, and starting at number 5, I got to go with Julio Jones. I think when you look at Julio Jones, his ability, his size, his ability to run routes and break people down, I think he'll have an amazing season in Tennessee paired with A.J. Brown along with Derrick Henry in the backfield. So you got to look at it from that standpoint. At number 4, Stephon Diggs. What can you say about a guy who's just continuing to just – this guy was drafted in the middle rounds of the NFL draft, and all he's done was basically take the NFL by storm, starting off in Minnesota and just recently in Buffalo. And then at number 3, D-Hop. What more can you say about him? He goes from Houston. Bill O'Brien couldn't get along with him, didn't like his play, kind of hurt Deshaun Watson's ability to win games without his main target. So he goes to Arizona, does what he's always done, balled out. And then number 2. It's nepotism all the way around. I understand that he was hurt last year and had a down year. But here's what I would say, as I always say, Dan and Swagoo. They call him Slant Mike. You don't get paid $20-some million and be one of only 2 offensive players at the receiver position to get that Offensive Player of the Year award, only catching slants. It doesn't happen. So I'm going to put him at number 2 with that nepotism. Yes, alive and kicking. And at number 1 is Devontae Adams, is number 1. And I know you're scratching the side of your head and you're wondering, oh, God, man, where's Tyreek Hill? Tyreek Hill got his own category, off to the left, all by himself. That's how special he is. He don't go on the wide receiver list. Go right ahead. What you got? What problems you got with me, Swagger?
What list he go on? What list he go on then?
Hey, he's a jack of all trades and a master of none. He's not a receiver, though.
Oh, my goodness, Key.
He's not. He's a special dude that's ridiculous.
See, I'm noticing a trend through this list. I'm noticing big physical wide receivers that win a lot of one-on-ones. I'm noticing the body types of these wide receivers. And you trying to deem Tyreek Hill not a receiver. You can't do that. He's a receiver, man.
No, he's not. He's not. I understand it's WR in the program by his name, but he does so many special things. I'm not saying he's not the most dangerous guy in the NFL with the football in his hand. All I'm saying is on 3rd and 9, when everybody know who's getting the football, we ain't running Tyreek Hill on no routes like that. We just not. They giving it to Kelsey in that situation.
Man. Listen,
So it's the reality.
I'm 100%. I understand.
I'm not saying he's not good.
Saying, man.
I'm just saying at the
WR. I know it.
At the WR, I want him on my team, and I would take him. I just like traditional wide receivers.
So
there we go. It came out. That's what I was looking for, Dan Graziano.
Yeah.
It came out. I like traditional wide receivers. So the man ain't a wide receiver because in Keyshawn Johnson's book, he not a traditional wide receiver. He is arguably the most productive wide receiver in the NFL, Key.
I said
and just
he
because
is
they
the
use
most
him on slants and reverses.
He is the most dangerous guy in the NFL with the football
we know
in
that,
his hand.
but he a wide receiver.
all right.
No, not for my money.
I got a call here.
He's special.
Traditional and a member of the Keyshawn Johnson family. That helps you get on the list.
You wouldn't even know. You ain't never played receiver
for future
anyway,
reference.
Swagoo.
These guys are going to keep yelling at each other. But one guy who was not on
you
either
never break
list,
down D lineman then. And
second-year Vikings wideout Justin Jefferson. I'm just going to keep talking. He tweeted out, "I appreciate the ones that think I won't be as good as I was last year. Y'all are pushing me to an ultimate level. And I thank you for that." So how good was Justin Jefferson last year? Well, glad you asked. He had 1,400 receiving yards, which broke the Super Bowl era record for most receiving yards by a rookie. That record had previously been held by Anquan Boldin and Randy Moss. Not bad company. So monster rookie season last year for Jefferson. Time for some quick reads looking ahead to this year. Key. Who from this year's rookie class of wideouts do you think will have a huge impact in 2021?
I think it's Rashad Bateman. When you think about him, 27th pick overall to the Ravens, a big guy that they needed on the perimeter. Outside gives Lamar Jackson that target they need. He may not have 1,400 yards, but he's going to be so important to what they do in the passing game. I believe he'll have an excellent year, no question about it.
I'm assuming he's a traditional wide receiver. I'm going with Jamar Chase with the Cincinnati Bengals, and it's because of the rapport that he already has with Joe Burrow. I know everybody was talking about Cincinnati taking the offensive lineman, but Jamar Chase is going to make a difference in this offense. And then coming into a familiar situation with Joe Burrow, T. Higgins on the other side. And remember, these guys thrive a lot when they have guys that are around them that can make plays as well. I look forward to Jamar Chase having a big one.
Pleasure to be on a show with two wonderfully non-traditional football analysts. We are less than 2 weeks away from the start of training camp, and still, we don't know what. Only 12 days away from veteran players reporting to Packers training camp. Of course, all eyes will be on Aaron Rodgers to see whether he shows up. We've been talking about this for the last several months. Adam, what has to happen to get Aaron Rodgers to Green Bay for Packers camp?
Well, Dan, let's try to provide some insight as to where the situation is 12 days away from the time that the Packers are supposed to be starting training camp. Aaron Rodgers doesn't want to be there. The Green Bay Packers don't want to trade him. And so we have a standoff that both sides now must figure out a way in which they can placate the other as best as they can. Aaron Rodgers has 3 years left on his contract. Maybe there's a way the Green Bay Packers can essentially find a way to void the last 2 years of that deal or create a structure in the contract that would pay Aaron Rodgers a balloon payment next offseason, whereby the Packers would have to trade him before then. But to think that Aaron Rodgers would show up in Green Bay at the start of training camp with nothing solved, with 3 years remaining on his contract, is, I think, naive at this point in time. And I think, to me, Aaron Rodgers' arrival, to a certain extent, is based upon his departure, because he's certainly not going to be in Green Bay very long. The question is, can the two sides figure out a way for him to be there this season? But beyond this season, which is in question as it is, he certainly doesn't figure to be there next season. And so now the question becomes, what does Green Bay do? What does Aaron Rodgers do? Each side has decisions to make. Each side has been pondering options. And again, 12 days to figure it out and get it done, Dan.
Man, listen, Aaron ain't going to play for Green Bay. I've been saying that. I'm going to stand on it. I'm going to be shocked if he shows up for training camp or even games during the season. The second part of this, man, is we've had these conversations about Aaron Rodgers and what type of things Green Bay can do. And, Schefter, you make a great point. Like, negotiate the departure may be the answer. But I believe that negotiating that departure before this season kicks off is the answer. And then second, and the most important thing, to spin this forward a little bit, because Aaron Rodgers, we've talked ad nauseum, what about Jordan Love? Like, how does Green Bay operate now? Like, you need to be operating, let me give you some advice, Green Bay. You need to be operating as if Jordan Love going to be your starter. And these guys on this team need to be rallying around Jordan Love as he gets ready to prepare to be the starter. Yes, great to think about Aaron Rodgers coming back and everybody in their feelings, and it's a great thing to have the league MVP come back and play at a very high level. But there's a lot of things transpiring with that particular situation. The Green Bay brass, especially Matt LaFleur, better be locked in on Jordan Love as they starter and preparing this kid to have as much success as he possibly can have.
You know, Swagoo and Adam, you confuse me every other day because you come with great information all the time. So I'll go back and forth on whether or not I think Aaron Rodgers is going to come in or not. But I got to say right now, I just don't know. And if I think back to when this all took place on draft day, it's like, okay, he's saying he doesn't want to play for the Green Bay Packers anymore. No matter what they try and solve, there's two people that's still in the building. There's Brian Gutekunst along with Mark Murphy. They're both in the building. There's no problems with Matt LaFleur and his teammates. There's no problems economically. He's going to get money no matter where he lands. The two people in the building aren't going anywhere. They're there to stay. So as long as they're there in the building, it's hard for me to believe that a player who hasn't said it publicly, but I think we all know enough people and enough signs that's out there saying he doesn't want to play for them, would all of a sudden change his mind in 12 days based on getting out of there 12 months from now. It's just hard for me to believe, because I know me as a person, if I say I'm not going to do something, I'm not going to do it. I'm good. And I think Aaron Rodgers is the same way.
Well, and I would say to that, Key, I think it would be an upset if Aaron Rodgers were at the start of training camp. I think there's a chance he'll miss all of the summer. I think there's a chance he could report before the start of the season. I think there's a chance he could miss the whole season. We don't know exactly how dug in he is, and we don't know what's going to come out of the talks between he and the Packers. But what we do know is this. Those talks have been going on throughout the course of the offseason. They've solved nothing so far. And maybe because we're getting closer to camp, maybe there'll be some clarity. And the Green Bay Packers have said, hey, we're not trading him. And you guys are saying, well, it's time to turn to Jordan Love. Well, if it's time to turn to Jordan Love and you could salvage the Aaron Rodgers situation, then why would you not consider trading him if you could get back players that would help you win right now, blue chip players from a team? And I'm sure there are teams out there. Denver called on draft night and was told we're not interested in dealing Aaron Rodgers, and we'll see whether the Packers have the same stance with the Broncos or any other team throughout the course of the summer.
Worth noting, of course, contract adjustments with the Packers, maybe not so simple. They got big-time salary cap problems, not just this year, but also projected to have them next year. Devontae Adams not signed for next year. Packers have a lot to work out. Complicated situation. Another complicated quarterback situation is the one going on with Deshaun Watson and the Houston Texans. We still don't know what will happen there. We know that Watson is entangled in several lawsuits by former massage therapists. Prior to that, he had made it clear that he didn't want to play for the Texans anymore. That situation obviously remains in limbo for a number of reasons. So, Adam, what can you tell us about how the Watson situation might play out?
Boy, it's frustrating not to have absolute concrete answers on such key quarterback questions going to camp. But that's where we are today, Dan, a couple of weeks out of camp. I think a lot of people have suggested, well, maybe the commissioner will put Deshaun Watson on the commissioner exempt list, except if you go and look at all the people that he's placed on the commissioner exempt list, and there have been 9 of them, there have all been charges brought against 8 of the 9. So it's rare that the NFL would put a player on that list without there being charges. And Deshaun Watson has maintained his innocence all along, and he doesn't believe that he's done wrong here. Now there are accusations from 20 plus women about what he allegedly has done. And we don't know what is real and what is not, other than it's unsettled. So from a legal standpoint, I'm not smart enough to tell you how that's going to play out. From a football standpoint, it certainly seems like the Houston Texans have moved on physically and mentally. They went and gave a big contract to Tyrod Taylor. They went and paid guaranteed money to Jeff Driscoll, another quarterback. They used their top pick in the draft, which was a mid-round draft pick, on a quarterback. And so they have brought in 3 different quarterbacks. If they thought Deshaun Watson was going to be there, do you think they would have brought in 3 quarterbacks? No. But I think the sense around the league is they don't want to give him away until his value is restored. And so right now there are too many questions. We don't know when those questions will be cleared up. Maybe next week, maybe next month, maybe next season. Whenever that is, I think there is the expectation that the Texans will be moving on from Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, and of course, benefits an acquiring team to get him this year because the salary this year is actually low, $10.5 million before it starts to balloon in 2022 and beyond. So if things do clear up on the legal side, I guess it's possible we could see action on Watson pretty quickly. No action on Russell Wilson in spite of an offseason that began with a lot of drama out there in Seattle. Wilson now claims that he and Coach Pete Carroll are closer than ever. Marcus Spears doesn't buy it. Stick around to see what kind of